Freedom passes, the tension builds, the standoff continues in China.
This is USA Tonight with Marvin Scott.
Good evening, everyone. In China, what the protesters said was a government deadline to end their demonstrations slips by with no action. But the protesters are bracing for trouble amid reports the Chinese troops are massing in the capital and columns of tanks are lining up in the suburbs of Beijing. At least 2 hospitals have been alerted to clear bed space in the event trouble erupts. The reported ultimatum from the government was contained in a note to the students who continue to keep their vigil in Tiananmen Square, where 200,000 people remain stationed in defiance of the government's declaration of martial law. As the 4 p.m. Eastern Time deadline passed, it was greeted by a spontaneous chorus of the Chinese national anthem. While officials denied the government had set any deadlines, a statement by the Army read on television said the military must firmly carry out the orders of the government. A train packed with at least 1,500 troops arrived at Beijing Central Station and was soon surrounded by students ready to block them from leaving. The soldiers were armed with AK-47 assault rifles. Thousands of residents have put up roadblocks as the only line of defense. 60 buses and trucks were drawn up in a line at the northern end of Tiananmen Square. While banners declared, "Don't be afraid to die," one student leader said the students would offer no resistance should the tanks and troops move in. Under the martial law decree, the Army can shoot under any resistance. Some reports indicate the soldiers have been prevented from hearing news accounts the past 10 days and are unaware of the situation and demands of the students for more freedom and an end to official corruption. It is not known if the soldiers would actually move against their own people if given the order to do so. Despite the worst political and civil crisis to hit China since the Cultural Revolution, senior leader Deng Xiaoping and Premier Li Peng have remained silent and out of sight since martial law was imposed. Tonight, I spoke with a member of the Western diplomatic community at an embassy in Beijing who spoke on condition he not be identified. Now mourning in China, he said there is a sense of relief that the troops did not make any moves during the night. Everything, he said, appears to be calm at the moment. There is no transportation in the Chinese capital. Roadblocks are everywhere. And our source told us representatives of the Army have met with leaders of the uprising, reportedly telling them the troops don't want any violence. The source noted that it's still not clear whose side the Army is on. And he said U.S. officials in Beijing are maintaining a very low profile, saying nothing at all because, as he put it, this is an internal Chinese thing. And the diplomatic source went on, the fear of violence appears to have abated for the moment, adding that there is growing belief that there is a power struggle underway in China's leadership, which apparently is trying right now to decide just what to do next. Because of the tense situation, the State Department has issued an advisory warning Americans to defer travel in China for at least the next 3 days. The uprising there continues to draw support and is triggering demonstrations in many parts of the world. The largest demonstration was held in Hong Kong, where up to 1 million people, 1/6 of the Crown Colony's population, jammed the streets, demanding the resignation of China's leadership and shouting support for the pro-democracy demonstrators. It was the largest political demonstration ever held in Hong Kong, which is scheduled to revert to Chinese rule in 1997. In Japan, thousands of Chinese students studying there marched through the streets of Tokyo and staged a rally to show their solidarity. They carried banners that echoed chants of "Long live freedom." The theme was much the same in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, where more than 1,000 Chinese students staged a protest of support in the French capital. They called for the resignation of Chinese Premier Li Peng. And the aftershock of what's happening in China continues to draw reaction and support in the United States. Drew Scott has more on that.
Down with Li Peng! Down with Li Peng! Down with the hostile government! Down with the hostile government!
They wore armbands and headbands that said freedom and human rights. Their chanting was louder than their march through Chinatown yesterday, and their signs read "Down with Deng Xiaoping," and some were critical of President Bush, who has been low-key in his support to the Beijing students. Some 200 to 300 students protested again here outside the Chinese consulate in New York and in at least 4 other cities. Their message: support for the Beijing students and revulsion over the official government crackdown.
We call on the senior generals and the soldiers realize the whole situation and stand on the people's side. The army must refuse to suppress the student demonstrations on any occasion.
I hope that the people will stay in the Central Plaza no matter how they threaten them. They will stay. They have to stay. Otherwise, they just lose a chance. That's the only chance they can win in past 70 years or so.
On ABC's This Week program, former Secretary of State Kissinger said any crackdown by Chinese troops would send shockwaves to Washington.
Well, I think televised violence from the square will hurt severely Sino-U.S. relations, no matter what the explanation is that is given, because of the basic values of American society. So I hope very much, for that reason alone and for many other reasons, that that can be avoided.
China expert A. Doak Barnett says some sort of violent confrontation will come soon.
I think what they'll try to do is use tear gas and various other methods, but it's not impossible that they will shoot. If so, I think the consequences will be tragic.
While today's demonstrations were smaller than the ones held yesterday in Washington, New York, and 3 other cities, these protesters say they will return to the consulate every day until the crisis is resolved. In New York, this is Drew Scott reporting.
And when we come back, the president reacts to what's happening in China and in New York, putting their best foot forward for a very good cause. We'll be right back.
USA Tonight, brought to you by Tums, by Bayer, and by Kellogg's Bran Flakes.
Just this much Court-Aid heals more kinds of itches and rashes than all of these. Because Court-Aid has a clinically proven healing medicine they don't have. That's why Court-Aid is the Itch Aid.
How strong is extra strength Tums EX? Heartburn strikes, Tums strikes back. Heartburn's gone that fast. Tums EX, twice as strong, twice as fast as regular Rolaids.
You want to know what it's really like? Then drive it. Spend some time in here. The Mercedes-Benz 190E 2.6. It'll feel like nothing else you've ever driven. Then spend some time with your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer. You'll find out just how easy it is to own one. The 190E 2.6. Take a look at one now.
Want to see us approve your loan fast? Want to see it again? The 90/90 loan from U.S. Bank. We give you an answer in 90 minutes, and you have 90 days to make the first payment. U.S. Bank. What's the highest CD rate in Washington? Not anymore. U.S. Bank will beat any CD offered by a bank, savings and loan, or credit union in the state. U.S. Bank.
Dave Lennox. Since 1895, new ideas in heating and cooling.
Now get up to $200 cash back on the highest rated, most efficient air conditioning and heating system from Lennox.
Call your independent Lennox dealer.
The heating and cooling job is worth doing. It's worth doing right. And that's the way Central Heating does business. Call us today.
Meet Bill from Valley Heating and Air Conditioning. They've been servicing the Valley since 1948.
Call us for quality installation and service.
Attaboy, Dave.
Speaking on the student protests in China at Boston University's graduation ceremonies today, President Bush said the U.S. supports democracy, but he urged the protesters not to let it come to bloodshed. On the Soviet Union, Mr. Bush stressed that while Mikhail Gorbachev is making great changes, the West must not let down its guard. Also at commencement, French President Francois Mitterrand. At a press conference afterwards, both he and Mr. Bush expressed hope the NATO allies could come to an agreement on short-range nuclear weapons in Europe before next week's summit in Brussels. Elsewhere, another leader is also looking for an agreement. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir says he will resign unless his party backs his peace plan. Shamir's plan calls for a trial period of Palestinian self-rule with a permanent solution to be decided later. Meanwhile, the violence continues in that region. 2 Palestinians were killed, at least 25 wounded in clashes today. The army says it detained hundreds of Muslim militants in the Gaza Strip, the largest such sweep since the Arab uprising began in 1987. The Soviet Union is expelling 8 British diplomats and 3 journalists from their soil. That's exactly the number of Soviets the British government expelled for alleged espionage last week. Is it more espionage or just a tit-for-tat style retaliation? Martin Sixsmith of the BBC reports.
The British embassy staff selected by the Soviets are believed to correspond in rank and duties to their Soviet counterparts expelled from London, suggesting that Moscow's motives were based on simple retaliation rather than any evidence of wrongdoing. The 3 British journalists, including BBC Radio's Jeremy Harris, were certainly guilty of nothing except doing their job.
I'm really disappointed, frankly. I mean, I'm disappointed in them, if it doesn't sound daft.
None of them has been officially told why they're being expelled, but they've heard via the embassy that they've been given 2 weeks to leave the country.
Well, I've seen nothing in writing, nor have I heard anything even orally from the Soviet authorities, but I understand that we're accused of having engaged in impermissible activities, whatever that might involve. I've not been told of any impermissible activities in the past, and I certainly haven't engaged in anything other than legitimate journalism.
This is the largest number of mutual Soviet-British expulsions in 4 years. Back in 1985, 31 people were ordered out by each side. In America's largest city today, a unique fundraiser, all in an effort to play catch-up with what threatens to become the most devastating epidemic mankind has known. Shahab Sharifi reports on a massive walk to benefit victims of AIDS.
They filled the sidewalks of New York City. They put on their most comfortable shoes to walk in honor of their loved ones, friends, and co-workers who have died of AIDS.
We certainly thought about him. We talked a lot about him on the walk. Well, we thought next year maybe it would be nice if we had T-shirts with his name on it, things like that.
New York's 4th annual AIDS Walk attracted more than 16,000 walkers who each raised money to benefit the gay men's health crisis, one of the nation's first AIDS service organizations.
I didn't ask people for $1 a mile. I asked people for $25 a mile. Most people will say yes. It's a very relevant cause. I pulled in $2,200 this morning.
The AIDS Walk is 6.2 miles. It's considered the world's largest AIDS fundraising event. Last year, they raised nearly $2.5 million. This year, more than $3 million were raised. 15% of the proceeds will go to other community-based AIDS service organizations.
Trying to catch up to an epidemic when you're so far behind is what's hard. There are more cases every year, and people need more services, and we need to have educational programs, or we're never going to catch up.
It's estimated that more than 1 million Americans are infected with the AIDS virus. Nearly 100,000 Americans have been diagnosed with full-blown AIDS. Of those, some 55,000 have died. To put this number in perspective, almost as many Americans have died of AIDS than died in the Vietnam War. Many of today's walkers believe that it's not enough to sit back and talk about the problem. It's important to do something about it.
It's certainly a feeling of hope in some way that the goodness in people is being roused and called upon, and that people are responding.
Clinton Smith and Alice Farley are responding by walking the 6.2-mile course on stilts. The AIDS crisis has personally touched many of the people here. Walkers who have lost loved ones and friends are taking each step in honor of those near and dear to them who have died from the disease.
He was really sick for about 2.5 years. And he just really kept his spirits up. He never gave up. He went out to help other people while he was sick. And I just want to perpetuate that spirit that he had.
Thank you for your participation in AIDS Walk 1989.
As the walkers crossed the finish line, they were cheered by fellow walkers. They were given cool drinks and serenaded by musicians who donated their time and talents to the cause.
It's time to unite.
Reporting in New York, I'm Shahab Sharifi.
And up next on the Health Beat, a possible link between the spread of AIDS and your age. Be right back.
Pain, pulse.
pulsing, throbbing pain. There is a wonder drug for pain doctors themselves take more than extra-strength Tylenol or Advil. More doctors take Bayer. For pain, Bayer is the wonder drug that works wonders.
Rich stain and tough polyurethane protection in one. Polyshade by Minwax. Get a beautiful finish in half the time. A finish to be proud of. Polyshades by Minwax.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay. Josie, would you please read yours?
My summer vacation. We left for 2 weeks to go to Yellowstone. That was Saturday. Then Daddy's money got stolen and we had to come home. That was Sunday.
It could happen to you right here in the U.S., so don't carry cash. Carry American Express traveler's checks. Don't leave home without them.
Announced zero annual percentage rate financing for 24 months. Hahn Chrysler Plymouth announces zero annual percentage rate financing for 48 months. 0% APR for 48 months and low monthly payments on all brand new 1989 Chrysler Plymouths. For example, 1989 Colt E, 0 APR for 48 months and just $149 a month. Or a 1989 Plymouth Sundance, 0 APR for 48 months and just $199 a month. This is not a lease. This is actual bottom line monthly payments and zero annual percentage rate financing on the Chrysler Plymouth purchase of your choice. Exclusively at Hahn Chrysler Plymouth.
Tactics in treating AIDS patients. According to the findings of several researchers, the older people are upon becoming infected with the AIDS virus, the more quickly they'll become a victim of the disease. The study also shows infected people over 40 are at least 4 times as likely to develop AIDS within 7 years as people under 20. Researchers don't know the reason for the difference, but some say the results mean older AIDS patients should be treated more aggressively than younger patients. Compound Q. Many say this is the name of the most promising AIDS drug ever developed and may even be a key to stopping the AIDS epidemic. But some are concerned that unless the government approves the drug soon, toxic and even lethal versions of it may find its way into the hands of AIDS sufferers. Betty Ann Bruno explains.
The testing began this week at the AIDS clinic at San Francisco's General Hospital under the direction of the University of California. This first phase is to find out if Compound Q is safe injected into humans, but the university says it will have no further comment until the testing is completed. We have learned, however, that between 20 and 30 AIDS patients have been selected to receive the drug, that they're initially getting extremely small doses measured in micrograms. Q is a highly purified protein extract from a Chinese cucumber called Trichosanthus. If Q is found to be safe, then, according to FDA regulations, it'll be tested to see if it works in people as well as it works in the test tube. That's phase 2. But many people are concerned that the 3 million or more people infected with the AIDS virus will not wait for that second phase of testing.
In a situation such as AIDS, where we're dealing with an epidemic that expands very quickly, that kills people, where every infected person is expected to develop disease and life-threatening disease at some time in the future, it is essential that the system work faster.
Of course people aren't going to wait 5 years or 2 years or even 6 months if the substance is proven to work and it's non-toxic. There's going to obviously be, I can't imagine there not being a black market.
Usselton works at the Healing Alternatives Foundation, also known as the Underground AIDS Pharmacy. He says the pharmacy is being flooded with questions about Compound Q and is advising people not to experiment or self-medicate with Compound Q substitutes. Pressure is mounting to convince the FDA that it should allow wide distribution of compound Q if Q proves to be non-toxic. AMFAR, a national AIDS research foundation, calls for community testing through doctors who are taking care of AIDS patients. AMFAR says that will eliminate the black market, speed up the process, and it's optimistic that the FDA will bend the rules.
Experts say laboratory testing of the compound Q drug could take up to 12 months, but that human testing of the drug could go on for many years.
On your path to success, reach for America's strongest financial helping hand, Citicorp and Citibank. More American families own their own homes and attend college with our help, and more get what they want with MasterCard and Visa cards from Citibank than from any other company. We also serve millions of customers in every major marketplace worldwide. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Today there's a diet pill that can help you lose weight without being hungry.
And with no caffeine to make me nervous.
All my life I've been struggling with my weight. With Dexatrim I finally lost weight and without being hungry.
These are real people who've lost weight with Dexatrim. Just one works all day, morning through bedtime, to control your appetite and help you lose weight.
Dexatrim did it for me. I lost weight and feel great.
Today's caffeine-free Dexatrim. Nothing works harder to help you lose weight.
Yakima, we've got it. Financing, the Autoplex has financing, so long to the old inventory, hello to the new. This means savings for you. This 1978 Plymouth Horizon, $695, or this 1980 Pontiac Sunbird, $995. Again, 1978 Plymouth Horizon, $695, or 1980 Pontiac Sunbird, $995. There are over 30 cars at giveaway prices till Monday night at the Autoplex across from the Minute Loop.
The American farm is changing. As the ability to build a better vegetable increases, so does the chance of high-tech risks to our health. Where is technology taking the American farm as we head into the 90s? Rip King has this report.
Others for pesticide limits.
At a time when public concern over pesticides and agricultural chemicals is on the rise, public policymakers, economists, and investors have all begun to take a good hard look at the future prospects for American agribusiness.
And it's frustrating sometimes to the chemical companies, it's frustrating to economists, it's frustrating to policymakers, because we don't really have a lot of information yet on what the costs and the benefits of moving away from pesticides really are. But sometimes policy gets made just when events like this happen, and it forces the research establishment to learn more about some of the things that they have placed in a lesser priority.
Agricultural biotechnology, like its medical counterpart, is promising to revolutionize the life sciences in a big way, but just can't seem to say exactly when. Tiny microbes that kill farm pests are being touted as new biopesticides of the future, as are genetically modified super seeds from the nation's biotech labs.
Nobody's waiting for the year 2000 anymore. We have already developed commercially useful genetically engineered plants. Food processors, specialty chemical companies, seed companies are all altering their business strategies for the future to incorporate this new technology.
But genetically altered crops like insect-resistant cotton, industrial oil-bearing rapeseed, as well as the better-tasting tomato, all appear to be much behind schedule, or at least well beyond original projections. This has some investors a little nervous, and has some of biotechnology's biggest critics relieved.
Agriculture has already caused tremendous environmental problems. Adding biotechnology as a tool of agriculture has the potential for exacerbating environmental stress.
On the other hand, biological pest control, the preferred method of environmentalists these days, seems to have its own shortcomings on the future farm. This applied insect science that enlists natural predators and parasites to keep pests in check is equally in check unless more farmers adopt its use on a regional basis.
We're going to have new policies that either provide farmers with the incentives to cooperate or publicly fund programs that will take care of integrated pest management. Otherwise, I believe we would have seen it happen a long time ago.
No matter what developments come from either gene splicing or future predaceous insects, the public's outcry for safer food technology is a loud and clear one that the public and the private sectors will not be able to ignore any longer. In Berkeley, California, Rip King reporting.
Well, from talk of updating our farms to the latest technology in stars, reading the stars, that is. We'll explain right after these messages. Stay with us as USA Tonight continues.
Now you don't have to be from the country to enjoy great country eating. McDonald's introduces the new country-style McChicken sandwich. All white breast meat in a crisp country coating, so you don't have to be from Tuscaloosa, Opelika, or Apalachicola to appreciate our special country seasonings. You don't need to drive a pickup truck to pick up on that great country taste, and you don't need a fork to eat it. New country-style McChicken, only at McDonald's.
If you think all fuels and motor oils are the same, you're only fooling yourself. You can't fool your car. That's why Conoco makes top quality products. And we rely on more than 100 years of experience to do it. So why fool around with anything else? Quality products from Conoco. Your car deserves a gas this good.
Now that you're 40, would it kill you to eat 40-plus bran flakes?
Dad, this is healthy stuff.
After 40, that's no better than kid stuff.
Kellogg's 40-plus bran flakes. For you, after 40. Because if you need it, it's got the maximum fiber plus iron in one cereal.
So, I hate it when you're right.
I waited 40 years to hear that.
Kellogg's 40-plus bran flakes. After 40, everything else is just kid stuff.
Astrology, an age-old interest, but in one Maryland suburb, it's hardly practiced like it was in olden times. You might call it a sign of the times, call it the facts of life. Call it Mark Mooney reporting on one woman who used the latest in communications equipment to bring the tale of the stars to your doorstep.
And it looks like that she is going to be in the mood on the 22nd. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fax this to L.A.
Karen Herbst is known as the Star Faxer, the lady who will chart your life and fax you the facts. Her predictive power positively preternatural. Karen is also known as the Seer of the Suburbs, 30 minutes from Washington, D.C. in a tract development, very much like a character out of a Steven Spielberg movie. Karen produces extraordinary energy in one of the most